And good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much for joining us once again, live on Thursday night, live from beautiful Abruzzo, talking about my favorite subject, which is obviously this incredible area of Abruzzo. Thank you so much for your support. Tonight's going to be a little bit different for me because we're missing Tony this evening. It was the man in the background that takes care of all these little things that's running across the bottom and everything else. His son's visiting him there this week, so he's backed out of tonight's live stream. Isn't that, you just know where loyalty is, don't you? It's unbelievable. Anyway, we'll let him off with this one. So you'll have to forgive me if my eyes are all over the screen a little bit, because I've got to do everything myself this evening. I haven't got the faintest idea usually what it does, but I think I'm getting there. But if you can, I will be looking at the chat box. So obviously, let us know that I can see a few people coming in. It takes a few people a bit of time for YouTube and Facebook to connect to this, for people to start coming in. But if you can, write in the chat boxes, just so I know that I'm not sat here talking to myself. I can see people in, but it would be great if you can start using the chat box and let me know that you are out there and you are listening. So I say thank you so much. If it's your first time, then welcome. Where have you been is all I've got to say. But my name is David Benton, and together with my wife Silvana, we've been taking care of people moving to Italy, moving to Abruzzo for the last over 15 years now, nearly 18 years actually. We were thinking about it the other day, and hopefully we're going to be helping a lot of you guys as well. Starting to see a few people coming through, so I'm not going to go through it. Just keep writing in the chat box. I'll have a look later. It's always great to see different people coming in. So we've got people on YouTube and Facebook, so everything seems to be working so far up to now. When we do record these, so if you are watching, obviously this is live now, but if you are watching, when you do watch the recording, if you feel like watching it again, there's always announcements that we do for the first 10 minutes. So if you don't want to listen to me talking about boring stuff, then just fast forward 10 minutes and we start talking about the subject, which tonight is why Abruzzo. Usually it's my Abruzzo. Have you seen how I've changed it? Anyway, so it's why Abruzzo, and I'm really excited tonight because it doesn't take me much to get excited when we're talking about Abruzzo, but we have a special guest. It was all done at the very last minute because we've just completed our Home in Italy tour, where people from all over the world literally came to see us at the end of last week, and came on one of our tours where we show off the area, show towns, show houses, and that kind of thing. An absolutely fantastic group, and a few of them are traveling home, a few of them still here, but we've got a very special guest that was on that tour. Rick Buongiovanni, what a great name. I actually thought, in fact, Rick can actually hear me at the minute, but I thought, because sometimes it doesn't happen to me very often, but twice, I think, in my career so far, that famous people have got in touch, and they always usually use different names. And I thought Rick Buongiovanni, I thought this has got to be some relation of John Bon Jovi, my all-time hero. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but Rick's a great guy anyway. So and I can see him smiling away in the camera at the bottom. So he's going to come and join us because it was the first time that he's ever been to Abruzzo. So he's going to share with you what he thought about it. No idea what he's going to say, so hopefully I paid him enough during the tour to speak nice. So he's going to tell us about what he thought of the tour and a little bit about Abruzzo as well. So we're going to speak to him shortly. We thought we'd do the first sort of 15, 20 minutes. I always say that and end up going over time, but we're going to speak to him to give you his perspective on Abruzzo and what he thought. And then I'm going to start getting involved in some of the I've got some maps to show you and how to break the region up into bite-sized pieces. So if you're going to visit for the first time, how the best places that you can visit. Obviously, this is all my opinion, to which I do like to try and put out there. So a few more notices to say. I can see people are writing in. I will, once it gets to the questions later, I will answer questions, I promise you, but my eyes are all over at the minute because, as I say, if you've just joined, there's no Tony this evening who usually works in the background and does all of this kind of thing for me. So I need to just press a few buttons. So let's just tell you what's happening over the next couple of the weeks. So next week we have, on the 18th of May, how to make the most of your money on foreign exchange. We do this quite often. This is our man who in the know, David Nixon, who's going to be joining us next week, who is going to be talking about this. This is a huge subject. This one, I want you to join in every Thursday, but the one next Thursday, just make sure you always join these, because people overlook this when they're buying a property out here. and overlook the importance of getting the right deal, not just on the property and everything else, but on foreign currency. Lots of people sort of really concentrate on getting the best deal on the house, which obviously everybody wants to do that, and completely forget about how important it is to get the right exchange rate and do it at the right time, because you can literally save thousands, and I mean that, thousands, by doing it properly. So next Thursday, David's going to be joining us to give us a few tips on how it's done, show you how you can register free of charge with him, and how their company works. I've been working with him now for the last year. He's been absolutely fantastic. So he's coming in next week. And then the week after, another very special one on the 25th of May, Meet the Home Buyers. This is one of a great couple, Stan and Sharon, that bought out here in a place called Rocamorice. They bought, it was probably 6, 7, 8 months ago. I actually did a webinar with them as well. So we'll recap on how they found the property and all the rest of it. Then they disappeared and let us, didn't disappear, they went home and left us with the great joy of restoring their property, which we've been happily smashing to pieces for the last few months. I'll let them tell you, but maybe we've been scaring the life out of them a little bit with some of the photographs. Enough so that Stan actually said, you know what, I need to get out there. And he came out here last week. I'm not going to say whether it's much to his delight or much to his shock, horror, or whatever, to have a look at what we've been doing to their property. So that's going to be a great one. So you're going to have a little bit of how they found the place, and then we're going to talk about restorations and what they're actually doing. So make sure that you remember about that one. I will obviously be doing usual publicity, and I'm going to get back to emailing reminders to people as well about these Thursday shows, because I have been slacking on that recently. Then another thing that I want to tell you is about our next On the Road tour, which Rick, our guest this evening, has just been on the May version. We have now booked the dates. So it's the 26th and 27th of October. That's a Thursday and Friday. I hope it is anyway. But Thursday and Friday, 26th to the 27th of October. We will be meeting on the 25th in Pescara. We will be collecting from Pescara Airport for those of you potentially coming in from the UK. And we will drop people off on the Saturday for those of you leaving from Pescara Airport to go back to the UK, or maybe to Milan, or wherever it is you may be going. So we're meeting on the 25th for the aperitivo evening, where we just get together and have a chat about what we're going to be doing. Then the 26th and the 27th, we all get together on a coach, and we take you around the area. We show you properties. We have some fantastic lunches together, and it's just a great time. Hopefully Rick's going to be telling you a little bit about that as well. The last group were absolutely brilliant. Everybody got on, which was great. Always a help, obviously. And we had a great time. So yeah, if you're wanting to join that, I've had loads of emails wanting to do that. So it may be as well that we do another date in October, because I've got a feeling that the 26th and 27th is going to book out really quick. So if you do want to book, I am going to email everybody tomorrow. If you want to book now, then please, did you notice how I've done this? If Tony's watching, this is how you do it, Tony. You put the email address, you sort of preempt what I'm going to say. Anyway, send us a message to info@homeinitaly.com. You can do that whenever you like now, and just let us know how many seats you want to book, and then we'll be back in touch. I know some people have already been in touch, but if you could just send me an email again so we can do this. So we're going to do the 26th and 27th, and potentially 2 weeks before that as well. But I want to book out the 26th and 27th first, and then we'll go from there. So if you do want to join us on the trip, I'll send you more information. It's €295 per person. That's for all your travel while you're here, and lunches together, the aperitivo evening, then obviously our company. It just doesn't get any better, does it? Anyway, you could be the judge of that. So yeah, if you want to join, it doesn't include your flights, unfortunately. It doesn't include your hotel, but we do help you get the best rates wherever we can. And we are talking to a hotel in Pescara that's hopefully going to do that for us. So if you are interested, please send me an email to that as soon as possible. Okay, so this evening we are talking about why Abruzzo. So I'm going to be giving you my thoughts. As I said, I would like to bring Rick in first, who's going to tell you a little bit about his thoughts. And I'm going to go to the chat section. Now, it could well be that I don't actually put your questions up on the in fact, what's this one here? Let me just get rid of some of these up onto the screen, as Tony usually does, because to be honest with you, I don't know how to do it, but I'm trying to get rid of this join us every. There you go. There you go. We're getting there now. Let me get rid of this as well. And let's just put, it's all very technical, isn't it? Look at this. It's like actually watching Sky News with this thing at the bottom. Anyway, what was I saying? So let me get back to the chat boxes. So I'm going to try and put people's questions up on the screen wherever I can. Let me just try this, see if this one works. What's this person saying? Mike saying, hello from Canada, Dave and Tony. Only 4 weeks till we're on the beaches of Abruzzo. So there you go. It does work. I do know how to do it. In fact, I don't even need Tony anymore. Who's Tony anyway? So without further ado, I'm now going to bring on my special guest who's just been on the Abruzzo tour. Let's listen to what he's got to say about Abruzzo. So here we go. Let's bring Rick on. And here he is. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Dave. How's it going?
Good, thank you. Very good. And all the better for seeing you as well. So you've just done the tour. Would you like to, before we start talking about that, let us know whereabouts in the States you are?
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you. I'm in Virginia, just Northern Virginia, outside of the DC area.
Okay. So why did you choose Abruzzo? Where's it come from? Because is your family originally from Molise? Is that right?
So yeah, I have family origins in Sicily, Calabria, and Molise, which that one I just discovered probably within the last year, and so it was nice while I was in town. I got to pop down and visit their hometown, which was a great special event that I hadn't planned on being able to do before.
Have you never been there before then? Was that the first time you visited where some of your family was from?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was during COVID that I was able to do some research and start finding out town names and things like that. So in my previous travels to Italy, I had general ideas, but didn't know. So this was my first trip back to Italy post-COVID. So yeah, it was a great opportunity.
Superb. Did you find any family?
Well, so I love these small towns. Everyone's so friendly. It was Sunday. I walked into a cafe and people were sitting around, it's kind of around noon. Some people are having a spritz and some people are having coffee. And I just said the name of my great grandparents' last name. Oh yeah, his wife over there. Go talk to this guy. And so these guys, hey, come sit down. So we had a chat, got to visit with them. Don't know if they're related or not. Probably if you go back far enough, we are. But it was fun to hear about the town from them and just how welcoming and open they were.
That's great. Great story. So I think it's great when people go back to find their roots. I think it's really, really important as well to know where you come from, especially if it's a completely different country, and especially if it's Italy. I think it's got this thing about it, hasn't it? So that's great.
Yeah. I would say you're not the first one to be disappointed that Bon Jovi didn't show up.
I never told you that story. I did mean to tell you when I met you last week, because I thought so many times when I look at emails and you think, could it be? I wasn't expecting, possibly not John Bon Jovi, but at least one of his agents or somebody, But
well, the bright side, you're saving money, right? You're not having to pay for stage pyrotechnics and backup dancers, so maybe I'm a little more economical.
Brilliant. So how come Abruzzo then? Why all of a sudden? I know you booked on the tour, but where did you find out about Abruzzo and why did you decide to come here?
Yeah, and first of all, regarding the tour, great job on the tour to you and Tony. I found the information was great. It was great to see these different places and different properties. You treated us to lunch each day, great food. I love getting to know other people on the tour. I thought it was just great company. And hearing from them about their plans and their ideas. So that was fantastic. So yeah, I've never been to Abruzzo before. And in fact, I heard about it from you. I mean, I guess, I've seen it on maps or whatever, but never really gave it any thought. I've spent time in Southern Italy and Sicilia and Puglia and Calabria, and I love those areas. I mean, they're beautiful areas. And when you look online, you see these bargain properties there. But I think it was when I started following Home in Italy, and my wife and I have been watching your broadcasts and following your social media and your website. And we started to think, well, maybe Abruzzo. I've never been there. And I think probably, my wife was still saying, I still think, we love Sicily because she's traveled there with me as well. But you were doing a broadcast last year And I think you say you vacation in Sicily. Is that right?
Yeah, lots of times. Yeah, I love it
Yeah,
down there.
it's a great place, right? But as you mentioned, in Abruzzo, there's good infrastructure, there's good transit, it's clean, it's easy to get to. So on paper, it looks really great, and that's when I started studying the map and looking at transit lines and bus schedules, and I get on Google Street View, and when you list a property and just kind of look around and see what the town looks like, and so on paper, it looked really great. And that's why I was kind of excited to see it in person. So, and I think I emailed you a few months ago starting to ask about dates and things like that. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously tonight we're going to talk about why Abruzzo, and I'm going to go through quite a bit of that sort of when I let you go. But your first impressions, then, first of all, thank you for plugging the tour a little bit. So I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. But obviously, when you do all this research about an area and you've got something in your mind what it could be like and all the rest of it, what did you actually think then, really, once you actually got here and got into what's your impressions? What would you say to somebody that's thinking about coming?
If I had one word.
You're going to use that special word. I must say, ladies and gentlemen, everybody knows my one word that I like to use, and Rick does a brilliant impression of it. So we might ask that later. But
it's really nice. No, no, it is. Abruzzo is just fantastic. When you hear Dave say "stunning," he's it really is. I thought the first day we were up in the Peligna Valley, which is an area that, to me, that was one of those areas on paper looked really good. Easy access to Rome, access to Pescara and the coast, and a lot of little towns and villages around there. And I'll say it's just beautiful. We were up there, and it was kind of a cloudy, cool day that when we were up there.
It wasn't great, was it, the first day?
But it was really nice. I mean, our first stop was in Vitorito. I'm sorry, am I answering your question? I'm trying to remember what your question.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, just what would you say to somebody coming out?
That's
what
right.
you
Okay.
thought? So yeah.
Before I charge down a rabbit hole here, yeah, it's very green. It's very, very green, lush, and this is springtime, obviously, right? So that's the time everything's coming to life. You have these snow-capped mountains and rolling hills. On the other side of the mountains, closer to the shore, you've got, again, snow-capped mountains on one side, you've got the sea on the other, and these just rolling hills with these old villages perched on top of them. It's really just a remarkable place. If you have a view, it's a great view. I think that's my summary. If you have a view looking out anywhere, there's just something amazing to look at.
Yeah. So just so people know, obviously we started the first day, as you say, was the Peligna Valley, which is around Sulmona area, the areas around Sulmona and the towns and villages, because we covered quite a lot that first day, even though the weather wasn't very kind to us. But as you said, it just seems to be one place after the other. They all have their different things, isn't it? They're so sort of different in their own way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that first day, so our first stop was in Vitorito, which is in the Peligna Valley. So these are all towns, if you look at a map, near Sulmona. And Vitorito has this castle ruin up on the hill over the town. And you've listed many properties there, right, over the last year or so that I've been following you. And there's some that have really caught our eye. And I'm not alone in this, I'm sure, but I go to Google Maps and I look at Street View, and you try to look around to see what it looks like. And frankly, I mean, some of these places look really desolate when you look at them online. And we talked about this when we were in person, but when you're there, you just get a feel for what it's really like. There's people sitting in front of the coffee shop. There's people walking to the store, walking their dog. Now, Vitorito, it's a quiet town, sure, but I wouldn't say it's desolate, right? It's a small, peaceful town.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because that's the hardest thing about my job is because loads of people, again, as you said, we had this chat while you were there. Loads of people will jump on some of the YouTube videos. Usually people, they're not even interested in Italy. They just want to say something just to annoy somebody else. But it's sort of getting that thing across when people say, oh, these are dying villages, that's why it's cheap. It's just not like that. When there's schools there, when there's bars open, when there's shops open, yes, there may not be 100 bars in Vitorito. It's the village. There's villages in the UK with one bar. There's villages in the UK with no bars. It's a village. and we had the conversation about the feeling that you get in these places. For me, these are the heartbeat of rural Italy, as the small places. And I'm sure you will say as well, it's just so easy to jump from one. If you do want a little bit of life, you jump to the next town or maybe the next, because getting around is easy, isn't it, in those areas?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, as we left one of the properties, a property that, we've looked at online, and I know my wife has been very interested in. Well, we turned a corner, we were walking up the street, and a bus came by. I think it was probably from the Popoli train station or something.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Dave was very impressed with the timing that the bus came by right as our group was walking.
It couldn't have been timed better.
But yeah, Puglia Valley is just, again, looking for a word, amazing. Maybe, how about that? But I think when you took us to Raiano, Intro d'Acqua, which there's a town that is stunning. That one, Pacentro, was it? So I know we went to Sulmona, but where was the B&B? Is that in Bugnata, right? I think we went to Bugnata.
Yes. Yeah.
To see that one. So we saw a bunch of these little towns. Didn't get to spend much time in any of them, but you got a feel for them as we walked through, which to me was just great. That was great. Something I would never be able to do on my own.
Yeah. That's great. So you definitely come back then.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you, I stayed for a few days after the tour, just on my own to be able to poke around a little bit and go back to some of the places that were highlights on the tour. And again, that first day when we were up in the Puglia Valley, that's the area that to us, looks good on paper. And I'll tell you, in person, it's great. It really is.
So what did you think then, just briefly, just before I let you go? So obviously the first day we did around the Puglia Valley. When we went to the other side of the mountains, so still close to the mountains, so you came to where I live, Palombaro, Casoli, the areas are there. It is different, isn't it, to the Puglia Valley? What were your thoughts on in what way would you say it's different for somebody, again, that's thinking, where could I go to get different experiences of Abruzzo? What would you say?
So again, you have these snow-capped mountains on one side, and then you have these rolling green, lush hills that run to the sea. And being from the States, when I think of snow-capped mountains, my experiences are out in the West, where it's like the Rockies, and it's a little arid. But here it's just so green. And you see these historic towns on the hilltops. And I think I mentioned this already, but if you have a view, you have an amazing view. Because this is what you're looking at, is these rolling green hills covered in trees, and there's orchards and things like that. And you took us to a bunch of towns, but I also appreciated you took us up to like the parks. We went up to right along the mountain. We drove along the road, and we went to Penne Piedemonte. I say that right?
Piedemonte, yeah. And
we had a look there, and there's this trail that goes up into the canyon, just peaceful, clear mountain air. Which is just really amazing. We went by, I guess is it Bocca di Valle? I had written in my notes. Another trail that you pointed out to us. So yeah, really, really great places. We drove by the DiCecco factory, the pasta factory. Do they do tours or samples? That's what my question is.
They do, actually. Yeah, they do. Yeah. We actually did one of the first tours I did years and years ago. The weather was so bad. It was glorious sunshine other than the 2 days of this tour. It was one of the first ones I did, and I thought, what am I going to do with these people? And I actually rang the factory up, and they let us go in there and do a tour. So yeah, they do tours of the pasta factories.
Yeah. No, it's great. What I really like about Abruzzo, though, is it's not crowded. Pescata's busy. It's probably the big town, right? And everything right there. But outside of that, the region just isn't crowded. The roadways are nice. I had a rental car for a few days, and I drove the Autostrada from Pescara up to Sulmona. It's an easy drive through the mountain pass. But I really like the tour just for getting to see these places that I would probably never have gone to just on my own. Another thing I'll add about your tour that I found very helpful was, these great people in the tour. We've got these really smart people there, and hearing their thoughts and what they liked and, concerns they had about different things. And finding out that, because one of the questions we have that's really affecting our decision is, what is going to be our long-term plan? Are we going to live there full time? Because that's an option. Or is it's something we've considered? Are we going to go for a couple months at a time? Is it going to be something we do in retirement? And all that factors into how big a town, how big a home, or how accessible it needs to be to transit, those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
For me, it was helpful just to hear that there's other people who are also having those same questions, and it's okay if you don't have that all figured out yet.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Rick, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this at last notice like that. It's absolutely
Happy to
really
help,
kind of you.
and great job on the tour, Dave and Tony. Appreciate it.
No problem. Absolute pleasure. Okay, so I'm no doubt we'll keep in touch, and we'll speak to you really soon.
Absolutely. Thanks. Ciao.
Thanks, Rick. We'll see you again. See you soon. Okay, guys. So there you go. Great guy. We had really did have a brilliant tour with these people. So yeah, and it's just great to hear what other people have got to say about the area as well, which obviously it should inspire you to come over, because it is a region that's amazing. I can sit here and sell Abruzzo all day. I hate that word, to sell, but that I have to do that, because you're sat wherever you sat in the world, and my job is to get you here, because once you're here, to be honest with you, the rest is without trying to sound ignorant, you'll just fall in love with the place. I know you will. And the great thing about Abruzzo is, if there's something, I don't know, if there's something you don't like, then it's not that you think, okay, well, that's it. You know, this is the way it is. You know, I'll need to find another region. You can actually just move around the region. You know, so if somebody's saying, I'm not really bothered about the coast, I prefer mountains, go to the mountains. If somebody's got the opposite way, I'd rather be a little bit closer to the sea, you can be in a place that's half an hour from ski and half an hour from sea. And that's the great thing about the area. And the other thing as well that was touched upon there, what Rick touched upon in the beginning, was even how clean the Abruzzo is as well. Because unfortunately, my favorite places in Italy are in the south. I'll admit that. I absolutely love Sicily. I love Puglia. I love all these places to go on holiday. But sometimes you do sort of have to close your eyes and just think, okay, you know, I'll ignore that sort of trash that's on the street. And sometimes you'll go to some centres where everything's great in the main areas. You go one street back and you think, oh God, this is looking. There's no compromise, in my opinion. There's no compromise in Abruzzo. You don't have to close your eyes to that, because it's so clean. It's just a great place to be. And I always say that it's a real homely place. And I don't know, you've got to be here. You've got to be here. Somebody said, who listens, who's a regular on these streams, said that it's a place. It's not a place for tourists. It's a place for travelers. It's a place for people that really want to get to know something special and are willing to put that effort in to get to know something special. And it really does get you in a different way than, in my opinion, than anywhere else in Italy. And I will hand on heart say that to you. The only way you can try and convince you is for you to come out here and see for yourself. So what I want to do now is, because Abruzzo is quite a big area, I know lots of people make the same mistake when they're looking for properties and just look at properties on the internet. They put the search in of Abruzzo, and that's it. Abruzzo is a huge area. You know, we covered quite a lot of ground on this particular tour, but compare that to the size of Abruzzo, we covered very little. I have my favorite parts, and I'm going to share that with you, what I think my favorite parts are. Now, it would be so easy for somebody to say, yeah, but Dave, you're going to push where you've got listings. You're going to push where, you know, you work with people and all the rest of it. Yeah, of course I am. But I've done the legwork around Abruzzo. The furthest place I go to from my house, when I leave my house in the morning, the furthest place I go to is about an hour and a half away. Now, from where I live, an hour and a half, I can pretty much get to the vast majority of Abruzzo. So I don't just stick around a certain area because it's easier for me, because an hour and a half I could do in any direction and be anywhere. I stick with certain areas and push certain areas because, in my opinion, they offer the most to people. And I'm going to try and share that with you, because I think, as I said before, the biggest thing that people do is just look for houses. To me, that's the worst thing you can do, because first of all, we can fall in love with houses on the website, get there, you're really disappointed. You know, that happens. It happens more than it doesn't. Okay, that's just the nature of the beast. It's just the way it is, because maybe a clever photograph, maybe your imagination gets going, I bet this is like this, I bet this is like, you get there and it's nothing like that. Okay, so what happens then is you book your week's trip, whether you're coming from the UK, that's a 2-hour flight, or whether you're coming from Australia that takes you a day. Your time is precious. If you pinpoint just houses and just think about that, you're going to let yourself down, because if you suddenly find that house is bad and this one's bad, and oh my God, what am I going to do? Then you've wasted all your time. I would suggest that you view houses, obviously. Don't book all your days up, because that's a waste of time. Use the mornings to view houses. You start viewing houses after the 9th, 10th, 11th house. Your brain has gone. You get fed up. You can even talk yourself out of buying something, because it just becomes too much. Book your mornings out. Whenever I take people viewing properties, we usually start about 9 o'clock. By 1 o'clock, I say to people, go and explore, go and enjoy the place, find out about the place. So for me, the advice would be, yes, choose a few properties you want to see, find the right people to work with, hopefully. And then what you need to do is explain to these people what you want, what the kind of thing that you're looking for, what are you looking to create, what kind of lifestyle, what do you want, what's the ideal thing. And then from then you can really start narrowing places down, because sometimes people will say, I'm thinking about going here, this house, what do you think of this one? Give me a list of 10 houses, and I can go through it and I could say, well, in my opinion, 9 out of those are no good. It's the same when I go viewing properties. When I go looking, sometimes agents will call me and say, come with me and I want to show you these properties. Will you publish these? I work a hell of a lot with a guy called Domenico over in towards Sulmona, and he will contact me, and sometimes we'll go out for the day looking at properties. We may have 15 to see. Out of that 15, there may be 2 that's any good. That's what I do. That's my legwork. That's part of my job, because I need to see all these places, because I need to be able to then sell them to you and push them as to why you should be there. What you don't want to be doing is what I do, where I go out to see 15 and 13 are terrible and 2's good, because I've got the time to do that. You haven't. You might be here 2 or 3 days. You need to, at least when you leave here, at least say, you know what? I love this area, love this area, love this area. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and break this down for you. If you do want to ask questions, feel free. I will be, I say, because Tony's not here, I do need to sort of glance over and try and catch the questions as they come in. But do feel free to ask some. But it's got to be about tonight's subject. I know somebody's talking about taxes. Unfortunately, we're not doing taxes tonight, so let's talk about Abruzzo. So let me just try and share my screen. This is where everything goes all wrong. Let me. Somebody's saying that somebody's saying the sound is gone. Can somebody just let me know if that sound is now back? If somebody can just quickly write me a message to say if sound is back. Can anybody hear? If somebody can just double check to see if there's any sound back now. So Carol's saying it's back now, so hopefully you can see. Tony's not here. He's jinxed me, hasn't it? He's somewhere laughing now. I can feel him. Anyway, so sound's back. Great. I'll not do that where I disappear anymore. That's obviously got something to do with it. So as I was saying, this area here is the main motorway that takes you over to Rome in this area. So here you have the Maiella mountain range, and here you have the Gran Sasso mountain range. Now, let me just give my opinions on these two, because I'm going to try and simplify it. The highest mountain is the Gran Sasso. In my opinion, the Gran Sasso is spectacular to look at. When you take this motorway here and you see the wall of mountains here, it is spectacular. The Gran Sasso is this rock that's a sheer rock face, and it really looks. I suffer from vertigo, and I actually, when I go up in that neck of the woods, it makes me feel a little bit uneasy, to be honest with you. But it is magnificent. Now, when it comes to the other mountain range, now I'm talking about the Maiella mountain range, the part at the bottom. Somebody's saying they don't see the cursor. Hopefully you can see that again now. The Maiella mountain range is more of it. It's almost as high. There's only 100 meters difference. but it's a, now this is going to sound stupid, so just bear with me. It's a it's a rounder mountain. It's actually called the Mother Mountain, and it has that. It's weird. I know I could sense you laughing at me now, because the Gran Sasso is this huge slab of rock. The Maiella is just a bit more, it's huge, but it's a bit more rounded. It's a little bit more friendlier, should we say. And the other great thing with the Maiella mountain range is it's really accessible. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can drive really close to it, really easy. The Maiella is the closest mountain range to the coast, and it's just easy to get around and get into. It's a weird thing. So if you imagine coming up to the Gran Sasso, you've got this huge wall, and it is spectacular. Whereas the Maiella is a little bit more rounded, really high, still spectacular, but you can get in and around it. And there's more, in my opinion, there's more things. Now, there is some great things to see at the Gran Sasso, definitely. The Maiella National Park has become the UNESCO Geopark. So it is really protected now. It's just, for me, it just has more in it. You can get in there, and there's some just amazing attractions. There's some hermits chapels that go back thousands of years, and there's just a lot to see. So that's the big thing when it comes to the mountain range. The other thing to let me bring this map back in to consider is the coastline. Let's quickly go through the coastline. Pescara northwards, and Ortona, in this sort of area southwards, are completely different. A bit like the mountain ranges, so is the coastline. So let me give you an example. This is Pineto, which is a beautiful beach in the north of Pescara. Lots of the beaches are like this in the north. So let's say from Francavilla, which is just south of Pescara, northwards, this is the style of beach. They are beautiful beaches, golden sand, and all the rest of it. Whereas the south beaches just have, in my opinion, that little bit more about them. This is Vasto. Vasto is a great town, great old town on the coastline. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that shortly. And north of Vasto, there's a nature reserve. The south part just has a little bit more natural beauty. There's coves, there's some beaches that are pebble, there's some beaches of sand. So there's a huge variation. So these are facts, okay? So we're not saying which, well, you know which one I prefer because I've just told you, but this is fact. This is what Abruzzo is like. So the south beaches are more like this. The north beaches are more sort of Rimini style, if you like. But they're still beautiful, don't get me wrong. Also, in the south, so when I say in the south, what I want to, let me just go back to this map. I'm talking about, hopefully you can see my arrow from here, from Ortona, south. So the first part of the Giro d'Italia started here last weekend, Fossa Cesia. Why do I keep pressing that? And it was the time trial that went from Fossa Cesia here to Ortona. So if you did see that, you can see some of the coastline. So this coastline, completely different to that. Also on that coastline, we have the trabocchi. These are ancient fishing vessels, which now are restaurants. They're absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's a great eating experience, and just to see the trabocchi is superb. There is a cycle path that will eventually run the whole length of Abruzzo. For me, it gets more interesting once you start going down a little bit south of Pescara compared to the north. Again, I'm not pulling the north down. I'm just showing you the differences. And in my opinion, when you walk, even in wintertime, if you walk to where the trabocchi are, there's just a little bit more, in my opinion, to see. So that's some of the difference between the mountain ranges and the coastal parts. Now I want to cut it into bite-sized pieces. If you've got limited time, I'm going to give you my opinion on these few areas, and I'm going to show you a few more photographs. So let me just get this map ready for you before I put it on. So this is how I would break Abruzzo down for anybody that's visiting. Okay, so if we're starting at the top, so we'll say zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. in my opinion, this is only my opinion, and there may be some people that may sort of have a go at me that live in certain areas, but anyway, I'm going to give you my opinion, and that's it. So this is my opinion. Zone 1, Teramo. Teramo is a great place. It's a nice city, and there's some nice towns up there, but there's very few of them. We're heading more towards Le Marche. This is where you will see the Gran Sasso. So that's definitely worth a visit. As for the towns and villages in these areas, they are nice, but I just don't find that there's enough there to say to me, this is a great place to live, because it just seems to be, I may be being unfair because everywhere in Abruzzo is beautiful, but for me, it's just lacking something. It's like, you go and see the Gran Sasso, fantastic. Go and see Isla del Gran Sasso, these sorts of places. There's another one up there with a famous castle as well. That's great. But for me, there's just not quite, I prefer to come a little bit further south so we've got easy access to everything. That's my opinion. So this is this area here, which is the Teramo area. Zone 2. Zone 2 is an interesting area, but what you will notice, the roads getting around, it's a little bit harder to get around, I would say, but there are still some main roads here. You've got Penne in the middle. Penne is roundabout is here. Lots of people like Penne. If you want my honest opinion, I don't get it. I think it's and people absolutely love Penne. So I can hear people shouting and screaming at their screens now and throwing things and saying Penne is beautiful. It is. The area around it is stunning. The countryside's stunning. I can see what Penne used to be, but I just think it's a little bit run down. Dare I say run down? Dare I? I don't think I can get into trouble for it, but it's just in my opinion. Again, go and visit them. If you're stuck for time, and there's a few areas you want to. These are the areas that I would go and visit. But lots of people talk about Penne. Lots of people also talk about Loreto Apretino. They used to have a castle at the top that used to be a fantastic hotel. I used to go there all the time. Whenever it was our wedding anniversary, that's where we used to go. Unfortunately, it closed during COVID. Has it affected the town? In my opinion, yes. It's such a shame, but it is nice. I'll be honest, I don't really like as much the coastline in these sorts of areas. I think it's quite busy. It's quite commercial. I think Pineto is beautiful. That's the photograph that I showed. The one again, still lines of umbrellas, but yes, I do think it's nice. I'm not as keen on just north of Pescara. I'll be honest. Again, my opinion. I'm just giving you that. Lots of people talk about Città Sant'Angelo. It's got lots of publicity, especially in the States. For some reason, that everybody raves on about Città Sant'Angelo, and lots of people will say, I just want to see properties there because it's close to the sea and all the rest of it, close to the mountain. Yes, it is. I quite like Città Sant'Angelo. I think it's okay, but I sometimes don't get the hype. I'll be honest with you. I think the countryside around it's great. I do think this area is very industrial. So you have got beauty, but you've also near a bit of industry and things like that. So there are some great places in there. Definitely. And really popular places are places which I can't see on this particular map, I don't think, but some really popular places to buy, which are closer to the mountains, Bicenti and places like that, which are in these sorts of areas. If I remember, Castiglione, Messa Raimondo, these areas, and Bicenti, a little bit further away from the coast. But they are very popular, so people do love those. Again, I'm giving my opinion. Atri, great town. My problem with Atri is there's Atri, and then there's not really a lot after that. So I like to be somewhere where every 5 or 10 minutes there's something different. Okay, so then we move down to the Chieti part. Now, you'll hear the change in my voice because I live round about here, a little town called Palombara. I'm certainly not going to say that's the best place in Abruzzo. We chose here. That was my decision. I work in most parts of Abruzzo, but I'm going to tell you where I think you should definitely be going. Now, when you look, for a start, Chieti is beautiful. Compare Chieti to Pescara. Unfortunately, Pescara was completely bombed in the war. Fact, there's no old town. Pescara is great too. It's got a great cafe bar culture. It's got the what's the word I'm looking for? The promenade along the beach with restaurants. It's always bustling, really, really bustling, especially at the weekends. Pescara is great. Is it Italy? Yes, sort of. Is it old Italy? No, because unfortunately it was completely destroyed during the war. So there's one street left that's got some sort of oldness, but it still has its charm. Don't get me wrong; it's a great centre, and it's great if you want that cafe bar culture, and busy and everything else. Then great. Compare it to Chieti. I don't think there's a comparison, because Chieti it was a free city during the war, which meant it didn't get bombed from above, and it's still intact. There's Roman ruins there. It's just a great typical old. It's very busy still, or can be busy. And it's just a great. It's typical. You know you're in Italy if you take a photograph of the center of Chieti. You know that you're in Italy. Take a photograph from the center of Pescara. You wouldn't know. Again, that's not pulling Pescara down, because it's great to have a Pescara in the region. But when we talk about splitting the areas, this is how I would divide the areas up. The reason for that, here you've got a motorway running along. Sorry, you're not going to see my cursor. Must remember to keep pressing that. You've got a motorway here. You've got another fast road here. You've got another fast road that runs from Chieti to the mountains. It's just quite accessible. It's really easy. I live here and I can be down on the coast in half an hour. I live here. I can be at the airport, which is here, in 45 minutes. Maybe not so easy from up in sort of these areas, but it's for you to divide it up this way, and you're going to be, you'll make the most of your trip. I love Chieti. Lanciano's a great town. Ortona southwards is where the coastline gets more interesting. Ortona is a great town. Fossa Cesia is a great, the old town on the hill. You've got some of the best trabocchis along this part of the coastline, especially just north of Fossa Cesia, and these have got some the ancient fishing vessels are great. It's easy to get from the coast to the sea. When we're talking about important towns in this area, I mentioned Penne. The reason why I said I don't quite get it, I do like it, but it just doesn't give me what I want. Compare Penne to Guardiagrele. I prefer Guardiagrele. I think it's a great hilltop town, and I think you can see that you can see its former glory, but it's still alive now, and you can see new things opening all the time, and the rest of it. Just my opinion. As I say, access to ski resorts. The best ski resorts are here, so this area has got easy access. There's also ski resorts here. There are ski resorts in this area as well, but the best one is here, Roccaraso. That's a fact. It's down in this area. Casoli is a great town, and then as I say, you've got this fast road here that actually links you to Naples, which is a great road and a great run to Naples. So I find access around here brilliant. I find this area where I live extremely panoramic. I'm going to show you a few photographs in a second. Then you know what, I'm just remembering now, I'm completely ignoring the chat, so I better plug chat back in. But yeah, for me, it's easy to get around. Now we're going to talk about area number 4, which some people may shout at me for saying this, but I'm gonna say it. I know I keep saying all of this. It's purely because whenever I do a My Abruzzo session, I do sometimes get emails from people that live here saying, why are you pulling down? I don't want to pull any places down. Abruzzo is beautiful. I'm just telling you what my highlights are. Vasto for me is possibly the best, or certainly one of the best coastal towns in Abruzzo, in my opinion. I think it is stunning. My favorite word. Inland from Vasto is the cheapest area to buy. Fact. So we're on here. We're now on the border with Molise. This is the cheapest area to buy in Abruzzo. So you have places like Casalanguida that's popular. You'll have places like completely forgot the name of it now, and that's going to annoy me. Anyway, there's lots of places down here that people. Carunchio is another popular one. Unfortunately, I'm really sorry, people that live down there. I don't really get it. I hate when people sort of generalize about certain areas, saying it's dying off, that's why properties are cheap and all the rest of it. But down there, possibly there is an argument for that, but it's really popular for overseas buyers. So obviously some people are going to say, Dave, you're talking rubbish, because we love it down here. And I get that. I completely understand that. For me, the more times I've been down there, I just find that it is dying off a little bit. Hopefully it will come back. I find that you'll see a nice hilltop town, and you sort of go towards that hilltop. You get there, there's very little in it, and then the next one's the same, and then and that's just my opinion. Some people may say, perfect. Rocca Spinalvetti, that's the name I was trying to remember, is a really popular place that's sort of in this area. Again, the properties are cheaper there. Some people may be restricted with budgets and all the rest of it. All I'm saying is, and I'm not going to, I don't want to pull it down, and I won't do that. I won't do injustice to that. All I'm saying is, if you're coming to this area, you've seen lots of cheap properties, which you will see, look at the road infrastructure, and you'll see a little bit why some of the areas are cheaper, because the roads can be quite winding. Getting around is a little bit hard to get around, should we say? And that's why the properties are cheaper. All I'm going to say is, if you come into this area, pop up to this one as well, just to have a quick look, just to see some of the differences. The other main thing to remember of this area is they don't have the high mountains. The high mountains are here. The high mountains are here. If you want the backdrops and really striking scenery, you have to get closer to these ones. There are mountains here, and they do look quite high. There's people doing videos of them, and they are. This is where the real backdrops start. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say is, while you're down there, please go down there. Vasto is brilliant, and there's a couple of great places closer to the coast. But just pop up here as well, just to have a look and just see some other areas. The last part of our bite-sized pieces, this is the biggest bite, is this part. But I should have probably put another line carrying on this purple line here, purely because what Rick was talking about as well is the Val di Peligna, and that's Sulmona here. When we talk about important towns, when we talk about, sorry to mention again, people that live in Penne and places like that, Sulmona for me is the queen. I'm going to say the queen because I think it's female. Sulmona, it ends with an A, so I'm going to say it's female. Sulmona is a beautiful place. I'll be honest, I didn't get it the first time I went. I must have been not looking the other day. I must have just been looking at something else because I'll be honest, I didn't get it, Sulmona, and then didn't go back for a long time. Now I absolutely love it. I'm just going to show this because I know Shezzy, she goes on here, has been she's traveled extensively this area before she bought a brilliant property, saying that she looked at properties down there and they were quite remote, talking about this. I was just looking for somebody who was going to back me up, and Shezzy's done it. But no, anyway, let's move on from that. So Sulmona for me is the queen. It's just a brilliant place, and the towns and villages around it, in my opinion, the Val di Peligna is a great place to be. So my favorites, obviously, I bought in this area. I also love this area, which is where Rocca Morice and places such as Manopello are. And I absolutely love this area. And as you will notice, yes, it's around where I live. It's around the Maiella mountain range. You can actually drive around the Maiella mountain range. Come and see for yourself why I love these areas. I'm not saying it's because it's easy for me to get to, because I live here, and for me to get to Sulmona, it actually if somebody just removed this mountain, it would take me nothing. But I have to drive around the mountain, and it still takes me 1 hour and 20. From my place, I could be up here in 1 hour and 20, and I can be down here in 1 hour and 20. I choose these areas every day of the week, and all I can say is come yourselves to see why I choose those areas. But I would definitely say, I'm definitely going to stick my neck out to say, if you're here on a short amount of time, I would say, let's say you're here for 2 days. Day 1, day 2. The other great thing about Sulmona is the access to Rome, is the access to public transport and all that kind of thing. All along this motorway here that goes towards Rome is great for public transport. Superb for public transport. For me, day 1, this sort of area, somewhere inland from Chieti towards the mountains. Day 2, this area. If you've got a little bit longer, this area. If you're looking for cheaper properties, go into this area, obviously. but also have a look in these, because you can still pick up bargain properties there. But I think you may find that there's just more around, in my opinion. But if you're going to split it into bite-sized pieces, don't just do one of these areas. As I said, if you're here for 2 days, this area and this one. If you're 3 days, you want to add one, this one. If you're restricted by budget, you must add this into it. Aquila is well worth a visit. Absolutely beautiful. But Peligna Valley here is just something else, in my opinion. If you had to say, look, we can't do it all, we need to leave some out, then I would leave the top one and the bottom one. Really sorry, that's my opinion, and I'm going to stick to it as it is at the minute. Okay, so that's the bite-sized pieces of Abruzzo. Don't get hung up on properties. Don't just think, I want to see this property. Go and see these areas. It's so important. If you come away saying, Dave, I absolutely love Abruzzo, and this is the area I love, this is the area, that's 3/4 of the battle done, because properties will be found. Don't worry. Some of our video properties go so quick and people get upset and they're so disappointed. There's always going to be the right property for you. The properties actually shouldn't be, obviously it's got to be a price. You've got to think the kind of thing you want. You need to see these areas. Break it up. If you've never been here before, don't just look on the internet and say, that's what I'm going to do because that looks great. That sounds great. You can do that if you're buying a camera, if you're buying a mic. As you'll notice, I've got this old mic here that's in my face at the minute because my other one broke. When I study microphones, like you wouldn't believe, and I've been doing that recently because I want to change. You can do that with things like microphones. You can do that with things like computers, all the rest of it, webcams, whatever. You can't do that with a house. Don't just go on the internet and think, I've made my mind up, that's where I want to be. You will be disappointed. Believe me, you'll be disappointed. Come and see the area. So important. So important. Want to show you a quick few photographs because I'm conscious I'm coming up to the hour and I don't. So I want to show you a few photographs once I get this sorted out. So we've done the coastline, we've done the Trabocchi. I want to show you where I live, because this is why we chose this area, because it's striking scenery. It's simple as that. This is Palombaro here. It's a small village, up to 1,000 people. It's a one restaurant, one bar, or a couple of restaurants, some on the outsides of the village. But every 5 or 10 minutes is something. We're close to Casale, we're close to Guardia Grel, and all the rest of it. But what I fell in love with was the striking scenery. However, can I stay here forever when if my kids decide to disappear and live somewhere else? Can I stay here into my twilight years? Can I stay here if I don't want to drive? Possibly not, unfortunately. Would I have to change that? Do I have to think about public transport? Definitely, because it's not on my doorstep. I would have to travel to get that. But at the moment, it's not a consideration for me. But I love this area because it's just so striking. I live roundabout. I think my house is possibly, I don't know if you can see this one. I think this is where I live, right at the foot of the mountain. And this is Palombaro here. Dead easy road that comes down here, and in another 10 minutes, not even, to my left, I'm down onto main roads. I could be on the beach in half an hour. Some people are going to say, I don't want to be there. That's too high in the mountains. It'd be bad winters, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. I live here. I know what the winter's like. I wish we had more snow. The snow is always here on the top parts of the mountains. If we get a week, that's it. There's snow on these higher ones. But if we get, as I say, I wish we had more, but we're on the seaside of the mountains. So don't look at pictures like this and think, I don't want to go there. It's too mountain. You need to see it because it's a different feeling. So this is where I choose. Another few places close to where I am, Casale. I mean, look at the backdrop. But Casale, you drop down from the old town of Casale, obviously this area here. You drop down, you're on the beach in 25 minutes. Here there is public transport. Not as much as Sulmona Way on, because it's lacking a train station. The nearest train station is towards Lanciano. But the bus services are good. But this back, again, it looks like it's in the mountains. It's not. You need to be here to see how the layout works. Another few places around my neck of the woods, Faro San Martino. Absolutely love Faro San Martino. It's actually right up against the mountainside and just got sold or in the process of selling a fantastic one. I don't know if you saw the video for $49,995, and I'm not sure if they're going to be watching it. The couple that's going to be proud owners of it. But I can actually see the roof terrace here, and it's this roof terrace here. I'm sure it's that one. Anyway, yeah, I think it is. I'll not spend too much time on that. I think it's that one. But yeah, this is a great town. Again, it looks like it's in the mountains, but you're not. You're up against the mountains, but you're only about 300 meters, I think, here. But you get down to the beach in a half hour, 40 minutes. Then some of our regulars on these webinars, Lexi and Craig, for those of you who've seen them, they've been telling their story a couple of times. They live here, Civitella, Messer Raimondo. The town we've just seen, Faro San Martino, is just over the hill from this and down next to the mountain. So every 5 or 10 minutes, there's something. That's typical of this area, some striking scenery. Lexi and Craig lived to the left of this photograph. But again, really easy access to the beach. So don't be put off by certain things to say, no, that's up in the mountain. You need to come. You must come and see these places. Let's move around a little bit. This is a place called Manopello, which is on the northern flank of the Maiella. Again, I'm talking about around the Maiella. Great little town. Buses in the town, but then take you down to the lower part of Manopello, where you can get trains and things like that. So this has got good links. Then you have Leto Manopello, which is here again with the backdrop of the Maiella mountain range. Look how beautiful that is. This is the kind of scenery that I love. But some people may like something different, but I think this area is great. Then this is in Leto Manopello, looking outwards. So you get a good mix of the patchwork quilt, and you've got the high mountains behind you and the smaller mountains in front of you. This is Rocca Morice. I always laugh when I see it. Rocca Morice is a great town. It's a small town, but it's got a good few bars in it, a couple of restaurants. It's so popular because there's two really important hermits chapels. I don't know why. Whenever I say hermits, I always imagine little people. I don't know why. Anyway, and this town is always bustling. It's a great little place. This is where the meet the home buyers that are coming, Stan and Sharon, on the 25th. They bought just outside here. But this particular day was boiling, and I remember taking the photograph. The bars, in fact, you can just see one person, I think, stood in the entrance of this bar. But the bars were absolutely packed. It was so hot outside, nobody wanted to stay outside. So it looks completely desolate. But yeah, it's not like that. So that's Rocca Morice. Again, this is Rocca Morice with the in autumn time, looking up to some of the ski resorts. Absolutely stunning. And it's sort of from there, I used that word again, didn't I? Stunning. 15 minutes, you're down on the motorway, and then you could be off to Pescara or heading to Rome. So they're not remote places. These are superb places to look at. Then, this is what's famous. This is what Rocca Morice is really famous for. Santo Spirito. You must see this. The drive into the mountain is just breathtaking. And then you've got this chapel built into the mountainside. You've got 1,000 years of story here. You go to these places, it brings shivers down my spine just talking about it, because they're just so magical. And then we have the Queen. This is Sulmona. Absolutely love Sulmona. I've only got a couple of photographs of it, but look at the valleys around it. Again, you've got easy access to Rome. You've got easy access to the coast, Pescara, and you can either head south or north. You've also got things like Lago di Scano, the Lake of Scano, which is the heart-shaped lake. You've got so much in these areas as well. This is another one of Sulmona, just looking over some of the rooftops. And a couple of highlights from this area, Pacentro, which is absolutely beautiful. The famous shot of Pacentro is this one. I used to use this as my backdrops on my webinars. But looking at this picture, if you look in the background, this is Sulmona. Then you have, if I work it out properly, Raiano, which is another place that we work in. I'm sure it is this along here. And then Vittorito, which is in the background behind. If we can just get rid of this castle here. So all these towns and villages, they all surround the Peligna Valley. They all surround Sulmona. So again, that's why I love that area as well. And this then is Chieti. A quick look at Chieti. So it's different to Pescara in the sense of Pescara, unfortunately, doesn't have the old part. Chieti does. and it's well worth a visit. Beautiful town. You may not want to live in a city as big. You may be looking for the under 20,000 people to qualify for some of the 7% things and things like that. But yeah, Chieti is a fantastic one. And going back to Pacentro, which is this one, and this chap, good friend of mine, Pete, and he seriously fell in love with Pacentro, and is going to definitely be closing on a property soon that we're working with him. But again, Pete did what I think is a great thing to do. He came down here, he looked at the areas, and he went away and he said, Dave, I want a place in Pacentro. Find me a place and that's what's happened. And that, again, his trip, it may have been disappointed the first time because he didn't go away with the keys that he wanted, but he knew exactly where he wanted to be. And that can be you as well. If you have an open mind and come and have a good look around the areas, rather than saying, Dave, can you just show me a load of properties, please? Because that is not the way to do it. It really, really isn't. There you go. That's this evening. It took me a little bit longer. I think we've got a record number in tonight, and that must be because Tony's not here. So I will be telling him that that we've broken the record while he wasn't here. Anybody that's just joined who's wondering, and you're wondering who's Tony, why is he? He's the guy that sits in the background, putting questions on the screens and doing all these things that's going off here that I've had to do today. So yeah. Anyway. There you go. Hope I haven't bored you too much this evening. But just remember, Abruzzo is just, you've got to come. You've got to consider coming here. You really have, because it is, you know that word, and I'm not going to say it's special. That's my new word, special. I don't like special. It is stunning. It's just an incredible area. It's got to be on your list. Wherever you've been looking in Italy, add Abruzzo to that list and come and see it for yourselves. Okay? And when you're here, let me know, and I'll show you some houses as well. And you never know, you just may find your home in Italy. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all your support. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the support that I'm getting on YouTube, on the video channel. I'm going to try and film as many new properties as possible. They do go quick. I know some people get disappointed when sometimes they just think they've seen the dream property and it's been snatched away. Unfortunately, we deal with things in date order, and that's the only fair way to do it. And it's just happens. It doesn't mean that the only properties we've got available, or the only properties available, are the ones on videos, because that's not the case. There's so many fantastic properties to see out here. So don't be too disappointed, but keep your eye on the YouTube channel. And if you have subscribed, you need to click the little bell as well. I never knew this, but this little bell, so my children keep telling me, Dad, you should mention the little bell on YouTube. So I'm mentioning the little bell on YouTube. They don't talk like that, by the way, because one's 20 and the other's 16. So they don't say it quite like that, but you know what I'm getting at. Go back onto YouTube. If you have subscribed, click the little bell, click the bell, it's just a bell. And when we put something new on there, it will send a text to your phone to say, Dave has just put something new on YouTube. So you can get on there. And if there's a property that you absolutely love, there'll be details of how to get in touch. And we try to deal things as fair as possible. So thank you so much for your support on YouTube and on these every Thursday night. Remember, next week, we're talking to David Nixon from a great currency company. He's going to give us some really, really important tips about changing money and getting the best deal. Then the week after that, if you remember, is the Meet the Home Buyers, where we're talking to Stan and Sharon, who bought and we're now restoring their property. That's going to be a good laugh, definitely. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'll be in touch next. We'll be in touch soon, and be live again next Thursday. Don't miss it. Same time next week. See you soon. Thanks again.